Welcome to Bare Bones. With your host, Danny Meehan and Dr. Mason West.
Welcome into this episode of Bare Bones. I am Mason West and joined, as sometimes, with Danny Meehan. Danny, how you doing?
What's up, Mason? I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I didn't realize that you were just going to be standing awkwardly outside against a brick building.
Well, you know, when you got to do what you got to do. No, I'm on the phone app because I forgot my computer today. And apparently you can upload your own backgrounds on the app. So, yeah, stuff.
Yeah, not too shabby. Because I usually just use the green screen, as obviously everyone always sees behind me. But it's pretty sensitive where you legit need a green screen in order to make it work. So the fact that you can just do that without one, that's pretty. Oh, look at that, guys! Chicago.
Yeah, look at that. Chicago skyline. How about
That's
that?
pretty awesome. All right, cool. Well, we have an action-packed show for you, or I'm assuming it is, because I took a lot of great notes. So we're going to move on to our first part where we do our chart review. This is just where I throw some information, some news out there. Danny reacts to some quotes that we have from various individuals that talked and go from there.
Huzzah.
Because this coaching staff is full of ridiculous people. First off, got to get your impressions on this, obviously. Torrey Taylor, Special Teams Player of the Week for the NFC. He becomes the second punter in team history to ever win a Special Teams Player of the Week award. Brad Maynard won the award in Week 16 of the 2007 season, and it seems like the rookie's in pretty good company.
Yeah, it's I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't think the first 3 weeks he looked all that good.
I would agree with that.
But it was nice to see kind of maybe the light bulb go on. Maybe he just got comfortable with the new football. Like, you never know how much going from the college, because for those who don't know, college has two separate footballs. There's a longer, more slim football, or a shorter, more like almost oblong football. So you get to choose which one is more comfortable. So he might have just been getting used to the standardized NFL football, despite how good he looked in preseason and reportedly in camp. But I mean, he added 21% percentage point odds to the Bears' victory with those punts. So clearly the pick paid dividends, even no matter how much I may agree with it, at least for this 1 week.
I also think too, like, just the operation, right, is a bit quicker in the NFL game, right, in terms of snap to actual into punt. So just like any position, there's got to be a feel out process, and hopefully from this point onward, he has felt it out.
Yeah.
All right. Last week on 3rd and 15 from the Rams 22, Caleb Williams threw a pass at receiver DJ Moore down the right sideline, but the throw sailed through the end zone. Williams thought Moore would carry his route straight up the field against two high safeties, but instead DJ went inside his defender before cutting back outside and up the field. Caleb said, "I wouldn't say it's somebody's fault. I think it's just us not being on the same page. We went over to the sideline, obviously, let everything calm down because I'm frustrated. He's frustrated. We both want to go make that moment and go score right before half, especially because that's big for any game." Just kind of wondering your thoughts on that.
I think it's kind of true. Like their chemistry together kind of looks disjointed, for lack of better terminology at the moment, right? Like it just feels like they're not in sync with each other. Like I have no other way to describe it because they're just missing. Like whether it's DJ slowing up or Caleb seemingly leaving it long or leaving it short, they're just clearly just not on the same page. And it seems like right now the only one he has real chemistry with at the moment is Rome Odunze.
Yeah, and say what you will about what last year was for the Bears, and specifically in terms of Fields and DJ. I mean, that chemistry was there pretty quickly. I mean, the problem was that it seemed like DJ was the only wide receiver that Justin had chemistry with. Every other receiver was pretty far below most of their career highs, things of that nature. But yeah, as of right now, it's been a little funky between DJ and Caleb, just timing wise. So hopefully with that and then the touchdown that DJ had, we can start to see some forward progress here.
Yeah, I think that's a good word. Clunky is a good word to describe it.
So we got to hear from some of the coordinators today. One quote I pulled specifically was that Shane Waldron saying, "We worked on that earlier this week, preventing the negative plays that put us behind the sticks. Call it a point of emphasis this week." Just in terms of, again, just some of those negative plays. That seems, it just seems a little, I can't tell if that's just regular coach speak or if I'm frustrated by it because it's just silly to say where you worked on having negative plays this week, because that seems like something you want every week.
Yeah, I think it's just coach speak. Like it was the same thing like when the Eberflus quote the game traction over like, oh, we want to limit like the turnover worthy plays or whatever, and everyone like ran with like he's trying to coach or break the wild stallion that is Caleb Williams. Like I don't think so. It's just a coach saying coachy things.
Like, to go off that, knowing there's that, and then he has that one phrase, end every series with a kick, whether that ends up being a punt, a field goal,
a point
a
after
kickoff.
try.
Do you think at any point, whether it's large and intentional or small and not, there is an overemphasis potentially by Eberflus to both maybe Shane Waldron to Caleb Williams that takes some of the aggressiveness away from what they're doing? Or is that just potentially individuals reading too much into Eberflus, the defensive head coach?
I mean, I think the truth is probably somewhere there in the middle. Defensive coaches largely are almost always going to err on the side of caution. Like the old adage used to be, especially from defensive coaches, only three things can happen when you throw a football. It's intercepted, it hits the ground, or it's a completion. So two of them are bad. That's like what the old thing used to be. And Eberflus is an older head coach, at least by standards of today. Right? But I also just don't. If you really go back and watch, whether it be the All-22 or even the broadcast, he's throwing some, like he's trying some stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like he's just being told, like he's not doing the Jaden Daniels thing where 75% of all first downs are either run or a screen pass, which is like they're on their own island of like predictability on first down. So yeah, it might be a little bit of overcoaching and overemphasizing, but I also don't think they're trying to just say, hey, throw nothing but screens and like bubble passes or like flares. I think they want him to try stuff.
I look back to, there's that one play, and I don't know if you particularly looked at this when you looked back at the All-22, but it was the one where Rome had a post, and he absolutely gets behind the safety.
Yeah, he torched him.
Yeah, and Caleb, you could tell his eyes went there, and then he ends up dumping it down into the flat, and it ends up getting a first down, which is fine. And I was trying to figure out as I was watching that, was that him making the conservative, I just need to get the first down decision? Was he worried about his overthrows in the past? Like what made him not throw that to Rome? Because that was not just NFL open. I mean, that was like open.
I think it was probably a combination of his deep ball just isn't hitting early on in the year. Like, so I think there's probably some sort of recalibration. And Lard, that's a rookie issue across the board. Deep passes and rookie quarterbacks just aren't exactly a match made in heaven. That's why you don't see a lot of it success, especially early on in the seasons of their careers. I mean, it could have been a bit of it. I mean, he got a first down. It's kind of moot at that point, but like, I think it would have been almost to his detriment had he taken the shot and missed again, because he's had the tendency to miss. Instead, he got the first down by working his way back to progression to his check down. So, in the grand scheme of things, would I prefer him to take the shot? Yes, I would. But, it's a results-driven business, and right now he's just not in sync with anyone past a few yards downfield.
Yeah. Eric Washington also talked today, and he specifically spoke on the importance of Andrew Billings and Javon Dexter Sr.'s force from the inside. The interior of the defense, he said, of the line in particular, has the most direct path to the quarterback. He says that the line has to be demonstrative in pushing the pocket back. Dexter has 3 sacks and Jalen Carter has 0. So clearly Dexter is better than Jalen Carter, right?
No, that's exactly what that means. Let's throw any other nuance aside. Gervon is greater than Jalen Carter. As someone who was trepidatious of Javon and fully admitting I put him in that Planet Theory bucket I've talked so much about on the show where they just don't make people like him, I want him to succeed. I have still a lot of questions. I think he's a lot of flash and not a lot of continued stacking good play after good play after good play. But I think he is tied for first of the second-year defensive tackles in terms of sacks. So he's getting production. Obviously, 3 sacks in 4 games is pretty good production. It's not. He's still not much of a impedance against the run. He still is lacking certain things, but at least he's doing the thing that he should be doing, which is getting to the quarterback.
You saw Montez Sweat has a quote saying, "We've unleashed Trevon Dexter this season. He's getting more playing time than he did as a rookie. He's out there taking advantage of his opportunities. He's making plays for us." Now, obviously, I mean, you're talking about your teammate. You're going to say obviously some positive stuff, but the fact that to an extent still that Montez Sweat is speaking on him in that manner, I mean, it's still something that's exciting, and that that there's something that within the room they are excited about him.
And theoretically, say this is the player he becomes where he's a pass rush specialist defensive tackle, and he never is able to bow his neck against the run or really even cause havoc in the pocket repeatedly outside of a sack here or there. That's still a valuable, good player.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's where he's going to stop. His developmental curve is too steep. He's got so much to learn for a guy who really was young when he got to the NFL. So.
Well, luckily, those get-off issues that some people were so upset about is not a big issue at this point.
No, the pad level is still his biggest.
Pad level, for sure.
Yeah.
Time for our training room roundup.
Oh, this is going to be big.
Oh, this is a thing, man. All right, so we're going to try to keep this to the stuff we know and to the stuff that matters as much as possible. So, for example, I'm not going to talk much about Mercedes Lewis. Moving on, he's going to play. In terms of the biggest thing, speaking of, we saw that Dexter popped up today as a limited participant, unfortunately, and there's nothing listed in terms of what he has. So that's fun.
He's just a little tired. So a little tired, a little sleepy.
We'll have to wait and see ultimately what that is. You don't love limiteds. I always like to remind people that if you weren't on the injury report before and now you are limited, that very easily could be you made it through half of practice and then all of a sudden the injury happened and now you're out. So we have to wait for Friday to see what that looks like because that could easily be a DNP.
Correct.
DeAndre Carter, that's big because he's been solid on as that. Really, I mean, now that obviously Keenan Allen's back, hopefully and not going to have something pop up again with his heel, he's not as important as a receiver, but big on those punt returns and kick returns.
Mm-hmm. He's an important player to this offense, and this team in general.
So he went from DNP to limited. That is positive. Tevin Jenkins went from DNP to limited. My expectation is that he plays. I said that, I don't know if I actually tweeted it yesterday, but I said it to other people yesterday. The thing with the rib and a sprain of the rib, at the end of the day, it's a more of just a cartilage issue where it's really just about, can you maintain your breath? And also at the same time, do you have the ability? It's about pain management, right? Because every time you take a breath in, it's going to hurt. Every time you extend an arm, it usually hurts. Rotation hurts. So I would expect him also potentially to get an injection just to help him through the game.
I almost wonder if it'd be best for him to just miss this game, get right, but we'll see. He's in a contract year, and he's quite known for missing time, and he has not been good this year, to put it nicely.
He has not. I wonder how much, because to my knowledge, Tevin has had no physical ailments this year. I wonder how much.
None that's been reported.
None that's been reported, and none that I've heard from people close to the situation. I wonder how much of it for him is the mental battle of between the coaching and scheme, and also being unsure of what is happening, more likely specifically to his right.
It could be. I mean, it certainly could be. Because he left the game at some point last week too, and that was a thing because for my eye at least, the line looked like it got better once he left.
I think I made that comment too in the post game where I was like, I have to double check this, but it did seem like things started. I couldn't tell if it was just because the offense started clicking or it just happened to, and or was truly when Tevin went out.
Yeah, it could have just it's not necessarily correlation is causation or vice versa.
And then the only one really else to highlight, Montez Sweat, ankle when limited until we're told otherwise. I'm expecting him to play every single week, maybe miss a rotation here and there. It seems like he's battling a lot of stuff right now. It's always something with him within the games.
When you're the primary guy they're stopping, I feel like that's going to be more and more of that kind of issue popping up, right? It was the same thing with Mac when he was here. It was always something where he's having to miss a series or a couple downs here or there, which we'll get to it later in the show, but the defensive line rotation has been nothing short of like, what?
Which is just also astounding when at the end of the day, you're still able to get not like anything monumental, but you're still able to get some pressures. You're still able to get some sacks right now. And you're doing better than I thought, honestly, they would with this current line rotation.
Agreed.
All right, to go to the Panthers, I'm not talking about all this. We're not talking about all this. This is insane.
the
list
whole
is
team is on the list.
Ridiculous. We're going to pick out some people that really matter, and we're going to talk about them. So, for example, Shaq Thompson, he's not going to be playing. That's huge for them, out with an Achilles. Jadeveon Clowney, he didn't participate the previous day but then now he's back as a full. Deontay Johnson went from not participating to limited. One of the reasons I'm highlighting some of these is just also because there's like probably some rest to an extent with some of these individuals. It's hard to go from not participating at all to like even just doing a little bit. So I'm curious what Deontay is going to look like. Robert Hunt is important for them at O-tackle, limited on both. Damian Lewis, limited both. He had a tear of his UCL at the elbow. So curious to see if he plays. He should play, but I do with a brace, but I do expect him to be a bit limited.
He also won't be pitching for 18 months. It's terrible.
Oh, it's going to be awful. Miles Sanders, who's been a massive disappointment for them at running back, didn't participate. And then Tommy Tremble didn't participate. Knee. That's also relatively important for them in terms of tight end because they don't really have a lot of tight ends.
Nope. And it's just not a good football team, to be quite frank.
It isn't. Random question for you, just because now I see his name on here.
Sure.
What did you think of Ian Thomas coming out and what he potentially could have been, and why he just kind of sucks now? That sucks, but he's just not very good.
I remember liking him, but I don't remember like being in love with him as a player. So am I shocked that when you go to this sort of situation in Carolina that you're going from Rule to Reich to this, it just doesn't. Like, you change that much, you keep changing coaches and developmental philosophies, it's just not going to bode well for you as a developmental player, right? It doesn't work. You keep getting different messages and different styles of coaching, and it doesn't ever equate. Like, how many times do you see guys that change that many coaches, that many schemes, that many styles that early on who pan out, no matter how much you like their raw ability? It's not a great combination.
And that's absolutely what he was. I mean, he was a raw ability guy. I mean, I remember watching that All or Nothing with the Panthers, and when Greg Olsen was dealing with his foot stuff, like there was all this focus on him to be the guy to step up. And I mean, he just never really did that year. And as you said, same thing as with quarterbacks, with other players, it's hard to develop when you have a revolving door of people trying to develop you.
Yeah.
All right, quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Kombucha.
Proper gut health is instrumental to athletic performance and recovery. Our gut is in essence a second brain, and health researchers are continually uncovering new benefits of probiotics, scientifically connecting the dots between gut health, reduced inflammation, and stronger immunity. Kombucha is a tasty, clean label, functional option to easily add probiotics into any athlete's routine. We call it balancing your brains.
Kombucha is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends the traditional benefits of kombucha and nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. Made from organic teas and infused with natural electrolytes, kombucha offers a delicious and effective solution to maintain peak performance. Better athletic performance, increased nutrient absorption, improved wellness, and improved cognitive stamina. I also want to remind everyone that we are doing a giveaway. If you go to the tweet that I'm about to throw in the chat here, and if you're listening to the podcast, I will retweet it momentarily. So you kind of go to this general timestamp for me, 5:17 on Thursday. You can win a bunch of cool stuff. There's actually 3 different sections, little pieces of prizes. Grand prize includes things like a Bears tumbler, a beer glass, keychain, a fun Yogi and Booba Ditka prints, a hat, and a choice between 2 jerseys that are pictured. Second place is the remaining jersey, a Barebone shirt, and another print. And then third place gets a Barebone shirt. So the giveaway closes at kickoff of the Bears game. All you have to do is go like that tweet, follow, and make a purchase of anything from Kombucha. Then you just have to send me a DM, reply, comment on the post, however you want to handle it. Just make sure you use Bear Gut Check at checkout so that it locks in. So go ahead, dive into that giveaway.
Yeah, have fun. Let's give some stuff away.
Yeah, I love that. All right, knee-jerk reaction. This is one hot take going into this week. What is yours, Danny?
That Jaquan Brisker is the best safety in football. Duh.
I will say, I know you know me too. I'm a Brisker believer, and it was awesome seeing people who don't necessarily love Brisker trying to balance how he performed yesterday with their unnecessary hate of his celebration.
Yeah, I know it's supposed to be a more serious topic, but he was like a bat out of hell last weekend, and it was so much fun. And that's been a guy since Penn State. Like I had tabbed, is just like, if you know the aesthetic and style of football player, I gravitate towards. He's always been just right in my wheelhouse or my realm, however you want to phrase it. And he's just a joy to watch when he's humming on the field, birdie celebration and all.
My knee-jerk reaction is the Bears have a real opportunity to let Caleb cook, as they play a lot of teams coming up who are near the bottom of the league in pass rush win rates. Per ESPN, the Panthers rank 27th, the Jaguars rank 30th, the Cardinals rank 31st, and even the Packers rank 32nd. So keep in mind, yes, I mean, the Rams and Colts ranked 28th and 24th respectively, and they got pressure on the Bears and, sacked Caleb at times. But that still means that it's an opportunity for this O-line to find their footing scheme-wise more than anything, and an opportunity for Caleb to potentially, like I said, continue to develop in terms of how he's getting the ball out and attack downfield. So, this is just it is a continuation of the preseason that matters. At least that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment and thought process. It's a lot of it is going to so much of the season, especially when you cut the preseason down to 3 games and the guys only play really 1.5 of them, right? Like you're just needing reps, especially the younger guys who just need to understand the game speed of the NFL and everything.
To be perfectly honest, this is where we just say something that we believe brutally honest going into this game. Mine comes with a little picture. Boop. So if you are watching on the podcast, you can see that I just threw up a table that shows most big plays through week 4. Unfortunately, at the very, very bottom, and actually that's a problem. I have to hide the freaking banner because that's how low they are. There we go. Boom. The Chicago Bears are last in big plays. So that's going to include rushing yards that are over 10 yards, receiving yards over 20. They have a total of 12, 6 and 6 each. So the next team is the Cowboys, and actually the Chiefs are down here too, and they have their own issues going on there. But I mean, you have a team like the Panthers that has more big plays than the Bears. And as Danny just said, they're not a very good team. The Patriots, who pretty much everyone has said is just not a good team this year, don't expect anything from. I mean, they're above the Bears. They have 4 more big plays than them. So, and unfortunately at the very top is the Packers. They have 38 big plays. So I hate seeing that. It's a problem, man. And to be perfectly honest, I'm sick of this. This should be better. And I think part of my biggest issues with it, yes, I mean, Caleb has some stuff he can be better at. I'm not trying to not talk about him in this because there's deep passes he could have absolutely had. But at the same time, I mean, he doesn't affect the fact that you also only have 6 big rushes. He doesn't, and at the end of the day, like, he's not the one that is allowing some of this pressure that he has to get the ball out so quickly. He's not the one calling all the freaking screens that don't make sense when you have Cole Kmet running a tunnel screen and you have Swift and Rome blocking for him, or for whatever, all these different setups. So to be honest, I'm sick of it, and I need this to start to change.
Yeah, I mean that was you can. I don't want to say you stole my thunder. Obviously, we don't exchange notes or anything before we get on this show. It's kind of we form our own stuff and we get on here. And mine was the big playability or lack thereof as well. So I'll go with the play calling has to continue to get better. Now I think it's been evident as you sit back and you kind of take the 10,000-foot view, as it were. Shane is getting better. He is adapting. He is evolving. It's just very slow.
Yep.
And it's like, I get it. It's a learning his personnel thing or whatever it might be. But to be perfectly honest, I need more out of the guy who everyone wanted on their short list of offensive coordinator candidates when he didn't get hired as a head guy, right? Like, it's just, it needs to be better. The play calling needs to feel better. The personnel usage has to start feeling more fluid and not so clunky. And like it's getting better, but man, like why? What was the holdup for like getting Roschon involved when it's so clear that between the tackles that at this moment he's probably your best runner? Like is that not clear in practice? Is the fact that Cole Kmet is just a better tight end right now than Gerald Everett not clear in practice? Like, yeah, at one point Gerald Everett had more juice and more explosive ability, but that was years ago. And I understand last year he had probably, I think, the second most yards after catch in the league at the tight end position. That was a different offense for a different play caller. Cole is just better at this moment, and I'm not even like some sort of Cole Kmet stan or like person who believes him to be something that he's not.
No, you're far from it, if anything.
But like you play your best players. Stop trying to overthink this and just play who needs to be played and get your play calling right and use and call the plays that you know you can run. I feel like I say this every year with the offense that I don't know what their bread and butter is. What is the one play when you need 3 or 4 yards that you can run to get 3 or 4 yards?
I would also love if DJ Moore was used on routes that really focus on what he does very well and allows him to be more of a focal point instead of a distraction half the time.
Yeah, and truth be told, DJ, for as much as impactful and as great as I think he is, he's not like some sort of absurdly great route runner.
No.
He's an athletic, freakish specimen who moves away for his body type that you shouldn't be able to move at.
That's the thing. I don't need him to run so many screens and goes. Like, give me a freaking dig. Like, that's what.
Where's your dig routes? Where's your post routes? Where's any of it? Like, it's just it all feels so like clunky, disjointed, whatever you want to say, like whatever your descriptor or your adjective is for it. But it has to get better. Again, this isn't me railing on Shane Waldron because I will admit I was harsh on him. I was more harsher on him a couple weeks ago than I am right now. But it has to, the evolving and the getting used to your personnel has to be quicker, especially given the tree you come from with the Shanahans, the McVays, and the LaFleurs. Like you're in that same tree, right? Or at least that same realm. We saw Matt LaFleur make a game plan for Malik Willis on a week or a few days' notice.
Right.
Like,
if you can just pull it out of your butt and make Malik look that good, you should be able to make.
And obviously, LaFleur is in his own tier of coach. There's no debate about that anymore. But it's just frustrating because to this point, at this moment, I still feel like we were sold some sort of faulty bill of goods when it comes to Shane Waldron.
There must have been something that Shane said or did that going into that interview with the Bears that made them believe that, whether it was, at the time talking about Caleb, obviously Dave wasn't on the team yet, or just what they did have within the halls of Hallis at that point, that made them believe that he was the guy for it. And so far, I cannot imagine that this just was what the product he described.
No, but like I said, I have faith. We've seen it starting to slowly progress and get better. It has to get better these next 3, 4, 5 weeks. because then your schedule becomes a meat grinder.
Because I think it's they have one of the 5 hardest schedules remaining,
The
essentially.
second hardest remaining schedule in the
There we
league.
go. That's bad. Well, life is humorous. Something after all that positivity, something quirky or funny going into this week. I'm going to go back to Eric Washington. Eric Washington said on the Panthers offense in the last 2 weeks, the stars of this offense are the offensive line and the running back. Pause. This is an experienced signal caller in Andy Dalton. I just it was kind of funny. It was like, offensive line and running back are great. Andy's thrown a lot of footballs. And it's just like, yes. I mean, and that's the thing. I just thought it was funny how he put it, but to give Andy Dalton his flowers. I mean, he was always been a solid player. I mean, those Bengals teams were playoff teams. Even his time with the Bears, he was looking actually solid until he got hurt. And when he's in his other stops, he's had it's been the same thing. So I was actually pretty upset when Bryce Young got sat, just because I think this game would have been super fun to have the whole young Caleb narrative. But also, I mean, Andy does give them a legitimate quarterback who has legitimate quarterback skill.
Not throwing jump passes on 5-yard outs.
I have never seen so many jump passes from a single individual.
Tim Tebow would be proud, sir. Well, ain't this humorous? Myself, many other Bears fans who I would consider very intelligent on this Bird app of ours, or X app, whatever you want to call it, left the DeAndre Swift experiment for dead. And he kind of shut everyone up, at least for a week, right? Like, he was their most explosive player on offense. He had a pretty cool play where he hurdled the lineman in the hole and took off running and kept his balance, because that's always been the thing with him, where his balance is just his contact balance, his ability to break a tackle and keep going has always been questioned, and rightfully so. But that play itself looked really good. And I like DeAndre Swift. I don't think he's anything world beater or spectacular, but I like the explosive element that he could and should bring to this offense. And granted, it's part of me probably not letting go of my Georgia evaluation of him coming out, but I think he's a valuable player to this offense, especially if they start using him the correct way. Stop trying to run him between the tackles. This is not something he does that well. Not unless you got the Philadelphia line.
So here's a question for you too, because I was thinking the same thing, and then my brain flashes to a pitch play that there's a 3-4 yard loss, and I know a lot of that is inherently just the blocking, because if you there's just not space for it. But if you can't trust your line and receivers to block a pitch, but you also can't necessarily use DeAndre between the tackles that efficiently, how do you call plays for him?
That's a question I don't know. That's on the coaching staff. Like, it's almost like you almost have to de facto use him as a receiver, right? Like,
essentially, in that way, if that's what's going to happen, or you have to try to scheme more number advantages. Like, that's another thing too. Like, there's too many times where there are 3 defenders and 2 blockers on the side, and I understand you're supposed to, in theory, DeAndre, DJ, whoever you have catching that screen or on the out, like, it's supposed to make someone miss too. Like, you have 2 blockers, take the most dangerous 2, and then you are in charge as the ball carrier of making that third one miss. But if one of your blockers miss, or at the end of the day too, like, depending on where the alignment is, that's also a tough assignment.
It is. And I also think this comes down to, again, going back to the Shane Waldron point, this line just isn't a great zone blocking line, no matter how badly you want it to be. It's just not. And they're really much more built for gap and power.
Their thing is power. Just run it down their throats.
And they just don't want to. And I get it's like the in vogue thing to do, but they just seemingly don't want to embrace it.
Which is weird, because I feel like, take Kyle Shanahan, right? I mean, he's like the king of zone run scheme. But then he will throw in games where they just run 90% duo, because that's what works for that game, that matchup. Again, if we're kind of thinking of trying to be off of this tree, maybe do what, like, the super smart dude is doing.
Well, I mean, we could say the same thing about another protege down in Houston right now who's struggling to run the ball without Joe Mixon and was really bad at it last year, and Bobby Slowick. And that's a guy a lot of people had to have to be the next great offensive-minded head coach that wasn't named Ben Johnson.
So here, we get off tangent. It is what it is. Deal with the people. What the hell? I mean, Bobby Slowick, potentially, he could have been a true head coaching candidate last year. People thought he needed another year. What the heck? I mean, like, what is this going to be? If this stays like this, if this is consistently what's happening, I mean, they're winning just because CJ is amazing.
Yeah,
but, like, what is this going to mean for him?
I don't know. We'll move on after this quick stat I saw on Twitter. I think it was Nate Tice tweeted it out. The Houston Texans have had 3rd and 4 42 times this year. They have thrown it 42 times on 3rd and 4. Like, talk about like just your ultimate like. Well, okay then.
Well, I know I can't run, and I know I have an amazing quarterback. That's all I wanted to do. All right, break here, and then we're going to get into some more specifics on this game.
Got that dog, you know.
We got that dog in us. It's the greatest time of year again. Football is back, and it's here to stay till February. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year by making picks on Underdog. Signing up with Underdog is smooth and easy. I especially like using their mobile app, and it makes making picks easy as hell. Their gimme picks are pretty awesome. Most of the time, you can go snag someone that to take 0.5 total yards. I think most of the time, if you have, for example, Kirk Cousins 0.5 total yards tonight, pretty sure he's going to get that. Along with their built-in multipliers, this also makes things interesting and pretty chill. I also love the variety they have compared to other betting sites and apps such as their 4-person Battle Royale draft. Just pick players for this week and profit. Making picks on Underdog is straightforward, and signing up is even easier. Just head over to Underdog's simple-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code CITY, C-I-T-Y. And Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code CITY to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus, Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus, Maine and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783. Or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Next section. This is what you need to know. This is basically important specific stats and just various bits and bobbles regarding the upcoming game.
What's that bear doing?
The bear.
Panther.
That's Sir Carr, bro.
Who?
Sir Carr.
I thought it was great that there was a DJ Moore soundbite talking about bear and panther. But that was also Robbie Anderson, or was he now Robbie Chosen, who didn't know the difference between a panther and a bear.
Yeah. Are your dogs going nuts?
No, why?
I hear a ton of dogs.
No. I have no idea what that would be from, but it's not me. Anyway, the Bears-Panthers rivalry has been played 12 times, including one postseason game, with the Chicago Bears winning 8 games and the Panthers winning 4. As all Bears fans know, these teams are intertwined for the foreseeable future after the trade that netted Panthers Bryce Young, while the Bears received wide receiver DJ Moore, offensive tackle Darnell Wright after trading down with the Eagles, cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, quarterback Caleb Williams, punter Torrey Taylor, the fourth that the Eagles got, or they got from the Eagles in the trade down, and a second pick in next year's draft to be decided. So this is going to blend right into our questions. The first one being, does this have the potential to be the most lopsided trade in NFL history?
I literally couldn't hear any because of all this barking I'm hearing.
What is happening?
I don't know.
It's
okay,
not.
now it's.
You still hearing it?
Yeah, I don't know why. This is really strange.
I don't know. Maybe leave and come back in.
I'll leave and come back. Yeah.
If you're hearing barking on the video, if you're listening, let me know, because apparently Danny just hears barking, and I have no idea what that's from. Do you still hear barking?
No, what was that about? It was so weird.
No.
It was like a bunch of dogs going at each other in my ear. I was like, is Mason messing with me?
Maybe it was like some weird thing from like the dog bark clip that for some reason kept playing for you, but not for everyone else?
I'm guessing that's what it was. Okay.
All right. Well, that was fun. Anyway, the question basically was I listed off all the things that had all the individuals that came out of the Bryce Young trade. DJ Moore, Donald Wright, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Does this have the potential to be the most lopsided trade in NFL history?
It absolutely does. Bryce has been benched 18 games into his rookie year, 18 or 19 games into his career. He's not just bad, he's historically bad. He had like a pressure to sack rate of like 45%, which like I was talking to Brad Spielberger, who formerly of Pro Football Focus, he was saying like you're starting to get to the territory when you're at like that 15 or 16% number. This man has tripled that, and the rest of what they got just isn't like when you factor in everything they moved, the Brian Burns, the Christian McCaffrey, the Bryce Young trade, and if Caleb's even remotely okay, they win like handily. And then that's not even factoring in the fact that your coaching staff wanted the other guy who is balling in Houston.
Yeah, and that's a little rough. I mean, I agree, and there's definitely some other trades out there that can, take the mantle of the most lopsided trade in history. But like you just alluded to, I mean, Caleb just needs to be fine, honestly, because when you add in everything else, like you got fleeced.
Oh, they got taken behind the woodshed and beat down.
Next question. Speaking of the Panthers 2025 second round pick that the Bears own, it might be a viable trade chip. Are there any positions or even specific players that you would flip the pick before the deadline, or are you more likely sitting pat and drafting to continue infusing your team with young, cost-controlled talent?
I just don't think you're making the playoffs this year, barring like some sort of extenuating like Caleb takeoff, which I don't. Not that I don't think Caleb's going to keep getting better. I do, but I don't think there's some sort of Justin Herbert, C.J. Stroud jump coming in the rookie season, right? Where you're talking like and we talked about this on the show before, Mason, that to expect that from that kind of season, the two best rookie quarterback seasons probably ever out of Caleb Williams was a bit of a fool's errand and ridiculous to put on his shoulders. And then it only got heightened when he's got the best supporting cast of any number one overall pick of all time. I'm sure
I defend that just because usually the team with the number one pick is usually absolute trash.
Usually. And my only pushback would be I never trusted this offensive line. And that's well documented on our show. I just didn't think it was very good.
Did you really think it'd be this bad though?
I thought it'd be bad. I didn't think it'd be like god awful.
I think that's where I am too. I mean, like the first 3 weeks at least, they played as like the 32nd best line. I mean, at least I expected them to be like, I don't know, 24th, 23rd. I mean, that's a big difference between like 32 and 24.
It is. It's a whole court. It's a whole 25% of teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there a scenario? Sure. There's always a scenario where I could envision it, especially with Ryan Poles at the helm. Like, is there a player? That I don't know.
It's not as easy as in the past when you could just circle defensive end and, Montez Sweat's there. You could circle wide receiver and Chase Claypool popped in, and that obviously was terrible. I mean, their biggest issue, as we just talked about, is offensive line. Players, first of all, teams don't trade offensive linemen like in season. It just doesn't happen. The depth is too important.
Yeah, like I've seen on social media recently the idea of like
insane.
Trey Smith being available. Like, no.
Why would he be?
Why would the Kansas City Chiefs trade their guard?
They need him to play football. Like it just doesn't make sense. And you're always one injury away from a bad line. So you need as many good pieces as you can.
Yeah. I mean, the name I've come to in my head a couple times that makes sense, especially given his age and what Andrew Billings is and isn't as disruptive and amazing as he's been to start this year. Jonathan Allen will always intrigue me, but not for the 39th pick or whatever the Panthers pick is projected to be. Like, I would give the Bears second round pick for him. in some way, shape, or form, I think. But I also know he's in need of new paper, so I have to think about that too.
Because eventually, it's nice right now that yes, you're doing okay, but you've invested a lot of money in this defense already.
You are, and you have to start like the offensive line is the one, but like who's trading a good young offensive lineman?
It just doesn't happen. And even if you did, like even if you traded away and you got a solid to good guard, does that really make sense to use that pick this year when you could potentially just sign someone this upcoming offseason?
Right, like just going off of Reed, an example, like going back to the Panthers. Well, Ike Ekwonu, whatever you want to call him, has disappointed. You could probably get him. Do you want him? Like, I don't know. And do you really trust Chris Morgan and this offensive staff to develop someone who has young and potential but hasn't fulfilled expectations yet?
Just listing a couple players, the guards specifically, that are going to be free agents next year. You got Zach Martin, James Daniels, Austin Corbett, Kevin Zeitler, Will Hernandez, Nate Herbig, John Feliciano, like Dalton Reisner. I mean, all of those individuals, I'd be more interested in just signing in the offseason than sending a pick out for a probably moderately expensive piece that you can.
I do wonder if they look tackle again this offseason because it's very clear on tape that specifically Braxton Jones is just not the same guy post that neck injury that he had.
Speaking of tackles, some free agents include Cam Robinson, Garrett Bowles, Joseph Noteboom, Ronnie Stanley, Tyron Smith, Patrick McCarry, Morgan Moses. All are functional, if not good guys. Obviously, Tyron Smith's old, so I wouldn't be interested.
Yeah.
Next question. Sticking on offensive line. The offensive line continues to be an issue. Tevin Jenkins left last week with a rib injury. Coleman Shelton continues to get tossed around, but did have his best block of the year on that Swift touchdown run. Pryor and Davis are fine at best, and the tackles are having a worse year by most accounts. What is the best offensive line combination for you if everyone was healthy, let's say, and how can this potentially improve, if at all?
I think the best realized offensive line in theory at this moment, I can't in good conscience put Nate Davis in there. It is what it is. I understand PFF thinks he's their best player. There's too many times I watch Nate Davis and he's just not touching anybody, and that bothers me.
His highs are better than, like, for example, Pryor's at times, but his mess ups are mess ups.
Yeah, like he just misses and just does like the security guard gif of the guy just not touching anyone.
Light that down. All right, go on.
What are we doing, guys? But left to right, I would say it's still Braxton, but I'm almost tempted to just put Amagaji in there and just see if he could. Like,
rookie hasn't played football in forever at Yale. Amagaji.
Yeah, right now I'm saying tempted because Braxton's been like, oh boy, what the Florida State boys were doing to him was
it was tough dirty. Scene. It was dirty. Jared Verse owned him.
And mind you, Jared Verse is a very strong individual, and Braxton's big issue has always been anchoring. But oh man, Jared Verse was throwing him around like a rag doll. It was not okay. But so left to right, Jared Verse.
Oh, we're switching. We're trading for Verse and putting him at tackle.
No. Braxton Jones. I would probably honestly put Pryor at left guard, center Ryan Bates, right guard would be Tevin Jenkins, and right tackle would be Darnell Wright.
That was essentially mine. And it's funny, I had the same thing. I had a flip. I just think it wasn't like worldly different, but I do think Tevin was better at right guard. My last like little bit of conspiracy theory I'm going to throw out there too is like every one of these players was better last year. That the only difference is really his center. Braxton was better. Tevin was better. Darnell Wright as a rookie was better, even though he's probably right now their best offensive lineman. And even Nate Davis at times was better last year. So when you have that much issue, to me, it just goes back to the only thing different is your center and your general coaching scheme. I mean, even your offensive line coordinator is the same. So, I mean, how I have a hard time believing that four of the linemen all of a sudden just suck now.
It's like, what the fuck? So excuse the language, but like I don't know what to make of it.
It's just odd. We do have to move on though. Love it, hate it, rehabilitate it. This is where we give you something that we love for the Bears, one you hate for the Bears, and one that if you were the coach, you would have a focus on fixing this week. I'm taking some liberties with my love. I don't actually love this. I love the opportunity that this presents because for me, that's what this year is. It's about growth and trying to get better. I think that you could have this be a get right game for the Bears offensive line that we just spent the last 10 minutes complaining about. We already mentioned earlier that the Panthers were 29th ranked in pass pressure at 25.6%, but they also rank last in quarterback hits with 10. Again, I don't think this will be a dominant O-line performance, but it is an opportunity to assert their presence, work on the scheme, move some people, and offensive line is all about mentality and attitude. So if you can start to really feel yourself again, I think that's a big thing for Tevin. I think he needs to feel himself. Can this be a flip of the coin? Now, I do want to note Jadeveon Clowney can still be a problem. So Darnell Wright will be tested. And I think that's important for Darnell. I think he needs to put his big boy pants on and say, hey, I'm going to show you I was worth a top 10 pick because you need to have more wins, actual dominant wins than you've been having. So he has to step up.
I would actually largely agree with that. The love it for me was going to be the potential for this running game to kind of take off and allow for the offense to grow amongst itself in and out. Because again, I know what the metrics say and I know everything like that. You still have to be able to run the football, especially with a defense like this and apparently a punter like this, because dropping back and throwing it 40, 50 times with a rookie quarterback just ain't a recipe to be successful. It's just not with this offensive line. And you can tell me till you're blue in the face, oh, well, these kids are coming out pass blocking more than they've ever been, whatever this, that. Offensive linemen like run blocking, period. It's taking the fight to someone. It's not waiting to counterpunch. They want to get ahead and push people around. Let them. I can't be any more clear about this. And I want the Bears to one day be the 4,000, 4,500 yard, 40 touchdown throwing offense. That's not this year. And I don't want to hear anything about oh, well, you need to keep acquiring more talent. No, you need to win football games. This is what you need to do. And it started last week. Start stacking wins.
That is the era you are in. You're out of the feel good. We got a couple wins thing. Oh, we need to focus on draft picks. No, you're in the we need to win games and learn how to win multiple types.
I will say this until I'm blue in the face because I feel like I've said it my whole Bears fandom. Moral victories aren't victories.
When you're a Bears fan, that's all you have to hang your hat on, really. But you got to start switching the narrative at some point.
Yeah.
I hate. And I know that they've put up good numbers in terms of win rates and all that stuff, but right now I hate this pass rush versus Andy Dalton and this offensive line for the Panthers. They have a solid offensive line. You saw that the last couple of weeks with the shift in stats that we're able to put up. Bryce Young threw for 245 yards, 0 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Andy Dalton threw for 539 yards, 5 touchdowns and 1 interception, both 2 game sample sizes. The Panthers signed Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis to give Bryce Young a chance and to be their first and third largest the first and third largest guard deals of the offseason. Damian Lewis missed last week, like we talked about, but I think he's going to be back. Per PFF, the lowest graded player on their line is the guy that replaced Lewis last week in backup Chandler Zavala, and he had a 57.9. That's better than some of the Bears are grading out at in terms of their starters. Their tackles, Aquanu and Moton, 69.4 and 67.4 respectively. That's not too shabby.
No, it's fine. It's respectable.
Andy Dalton is also rocking a time to throw of 2.35 seconds, which leads the league. And you combine that with a PFF grade of 81.8. He's getting the ball out quick. He's getting it efficiently. He's getting it to Deontay Johnson, who's just a reception monger. And also you're seeing, Xavier Legette come on a little bit at this point. So I just don't, if you have Andy Dalton getting the ball out fast, you have the offensive line able to push in the run game, but also give him more time to get the ball out quickly. All of a sudden, the Bears defense that is about, I'm going to let you matriculate downfield and make you make a mistake. Andy Dalton is not the kind of quarterback that you just expect to make a ton of mistakes.
No, I would actually agree with that because my hate it was going to be the offensive interior against the Bears defensive interior.
Yeah.
Because that's a good interior. And you're for as good as Billings is, and for all the flashes of Gervon, they just haven't. It's still they're winning by volume of bodies, not because they're kicking everyone's ass every week.
And now you might be missing Gravon.
Mm-hmm.
Rehabilitate. Something you'd want to fix. What would that be for you, Danny?
We already kind of covered it with the offensive line and the running scheme. It's just, I feel like I feel like a broken record, but I get that the outside zone and the inside zone stuff is the flavor of the year or the flavor of the last few seasons. Your offensive line doesn't do that well. Just gap duo, run straight ahead. Use your big back. Use your big back and Roshan Johnson. Use your Khalil Herbert. Make it a full timeshare for all I care. I know you're paying DeAndre Swift so many millions of dollars, but utilize your talent better and get that running game going. Because when that running game gets going, it's gonna make your offense better inherently and make your quarterback's life easier.
So what you're saying is more Doug Kramer at fullback.
100%. Go with the fat fullback.
My rehabilitate, Jonathan Wood at Jonathan_Wood1 tweeted out, the Bears are getting to third and manageable more often than most NFL teams and avoiding third and long relative to their peers. The trade-off is that Chicago is not picking up first downs earlier. First downs plays yield a fresh set of downs 14% of the time, 29th in the league. And while the second down is only 20%, which is 32nd in the league. As a result, the Bears have run the 20th most first down plays, the 10th most second down plays, and the most third down plays. You know how you do well at converting third down? Just don't get to third down.
Just don't get to third down. Yeah, there's a pretty easy solution there.
And it really feels like when you watch the play calling, that matches too. Because a lot of the play calling and the decisions that are ultimately made, which again, I still feel like Caleb is being coached to do to an extent, is, all right, let's get to third and manageable. And sometimes it works where it's 3rd and 2 when you can do that. But sometimes you end up at 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8. And a lot of the pre-snap penalties too are killing you. You now trying to convert 1st and 20, and now you're lucky that you're at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7.
And that's
convert more first downs on 1st and 2nd down.
And when you're the defensive head coach CEO team, you can't do the pre-snap penalty thing. One of the things you're supposed to be good at is mitigating pre-snap errors.
Exactly. You were, again, you hit it right in the head. You're the culture guy. We're going to not make the mistakes. We're going to make them make the mistakes guy. This is ridiculous. Now, I think some of it, and I think we haven't really talked about this, a little bit of it might be on Caleb, because when you have Cole Kmet has 2 false starts, Mercedes Lewis had 1, if not 2, that might be a bit of a cadence thing, but I'm not sure on that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Quick break, and then we get back. We're back. X Factor for the Panthers. What you got?
I mean, I think it's Andy Dalton and how he's been playing so far off the bench. Like, he's just been playing good football. Nothing spectacular, nothing amazing, but he's been very good. And I think when you go from unplayable Bryce Young to requisite quarterback from NFL veteran Andy Dalton, that's what it looks like. So I have trouble finding anyone else unless you're going to go like the defensive route with someone like Jadeveon Clowney, who does have the potential to make your life a little bit hard if he makes Darnell Wright's life hard.
Mine was similar. Mine was like chunk plays for the Panthers on offense. I mean, the Bears defense is peak. I said this already, bend but don't break. You saw it in previous weeks. The Bears mainly allow points if their offense turns the ball over, or there are chunk plays that shorten drives. If they are really good at, if you get down inside the 20 and it took you 10 plays to get there, holding it at least 3 points, or crazily enough, sometimes preventing you from scoring, which is pretty nuts so far. So I think the Panthers do have to get a couple of larger 30 to 40 yard chunk plays to get in the end zone.
Yeah, agreed.
I have a bonus one, Xavier Legette. He can play. He's good. He's coming to his own a little bit in the last week or
That's
two.
my
So
guy, man. That's my guy.
I know you and I also, between him and Keon Coleman, we're pounding the table like these two can play football. I don't care what the testing says.
Well, Xavier tested really well. He was a late bloomer.
He had the 1 year.
Yeah.
X factor for the Bears. Keep it simple. Keep the run game going and allow play action to be called. It's hard to run play action if you don't run the ball. And I'd like to see Caleb be able to be rolled out a little bit more, move the throw. He throws such a beautiful ball on the move. It's just so awesome
Move
to
the
see.
launch point. It's okay
Move
to
the
move the
launch
launch
point.
point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I would just like to see that happen more. Also, one last little thing on that. I don't need as many naked rollouts. That scares the hell out of me, especially when you just
Mhm.
there are just problems with the line anyway. So like, I don't know, just at least chip the dude a little bit.
Mhm.
What is your X factor?
It was actually probably going to be that, but I can just say the secondary continuing to ball the way they are could be the other way of looking at it. Just with Jaquan and Jalen clearly feeling himself, and Byard playing very solid, if not unspectacular football, and just being the steadying veteran presence that they wanted him to be so far. Like, make those receivers' lives hard. Make Xavier Legette look like a rookie. Make Deontay Johnson have to earn every yard.
That is another thing I'm slightly concerned about is because Deontay is just this reception machine. He runs very clean routes. He breaks them off well. And when you pair that with how this defense tends to operate, where it is, right, play behind and move forward, is that going to be a problem?
They kind of guard grass more than they guard men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Johnson's a guy you do need to man up a little bit. So I'm curious what that looks like. Over-unders. Caleb Williams, 225 passing yards.
I'm going to keep saying over because I feel like the trend has got to be bucked eventually, and he is playing good football. And some of these throws that he's testing are going to start to hit. It's only going to be happening so much where receivers are either dropping them or he's going to get bad bounce off the tip ball, or the ball's falling harmlessly to the ground on an overthrow. Some of these are going to start to hit because I think he's starting to figure it out in front of our eyes.
And you look at this Panthers defense, Shy Tuttle, they're starting nose tackles out. Josie Jewell may not be playing. They're starting right inside linebacker. Their secondary is fine. I mean, J.C. Horn is good, but I don't think he's necessarily as good as they were hoping he would be so far. Nick Scott at free safety. Mike Jackson is their right. Troy Hill is their nickel. It's just guys more than anything. So I think they can be had if the scheme is right, which is a whole thing. Andy Dalton passing touchdowns, 1.5.
Under.
Ooh, nice. DeAndre Swift rushing yards, 60.5.
I think they're still going to make him their workhorse for all intents and purposes, but I'll say slightly under.
If those first 3 weeks didn't turn them off of handing the ball off to DeAndre Swift, I don't know that anything will. So I think he'll be the workhorse until he dies. Deontay Johnson receptions, 7.5.
Oh, that's a good number. I'll say over, but slightly, because Deontay's going to get the ball spammed to him.
Yeah, it's just over and over again with him. Bears turnovers forced, 1.5.
Ooh. I think they're going to, like we talked about it, the Bears are going to force you to do a lot of underneath stuff. And with how the defense rallies to the ball, I could see them like forcing a fumble and getting an interception. I'll say over as just an optimistic thing. Do I expect it? No, but it's optimism, just given how they coach defense.
Special team snafus in total between the two teams, 1.5.
Under. We'll see like one really goofy play, but
I figured that would be as much. Half didn't seem like a fun number. Bear gut check game predictions. We use our gut feelings, revitalized by kombucha, of course. Go ahead, enter that giveaway. Try it yourself. Get some kombucha and then get some cool Bear swag. To give our game predictions against the line. Panthers at Bears. One of the only times they're guaranteed to be favored. Bears favored by 4.
Bears win and cover. I think they're going to have a little bit of a breakout. This defense is still really good. Like, I know they ended the streak of 20-plus points allowed right to Indy, but that was really just because of a strip sack that put the Colts in really good position.
Yeah, yes, the Panthers have done better these last 2 weeks with Andy Dalton. I think one part of that was an energy thing that they got. 2, they also just lost to the Bengals, and the Bengals are a mess. They lost, and it wasn't a huge, but they lost by 10. So I'm not super worried about that. I'll say the Bears also win straight and cover. Tonight's game, Buccaneers at Falcons. Falcons favored by 1.5. So they basically have no idea what's happening here.
Yeah, I would say the Buccaneers win outright. I don't know that the Falcons are that good yet. As much as I liked the Raheem Morris hire, I really believe in what the Buccaneers are doing, especially offensively. Like Baker looks like he's a new guy, like a really like this is the confidence this guy played with when he really started to feel himself last year into this year. And I know they had that kind of hiccup in week 3 where they didn't really look like the team that was kind of being one of the best offenses in the league, but then they got their mojo back. It's like I tend to believe that they're a good offense, not an offense that's going to sputter.
And I just think right now the only time you really see Kirk Cousins look comfortable is when they're in a 2-minute drill where they don't have to do a bunch of play calls and stuff, and it's when it's just quick one word, short phrase stuff. He just doesn't look good. He doesn't look mobile. It's just bad. I'll take
And
the
he's
Bucs.
probably still, and I know he's probably still, as much as he's medically cleared, he's still coming back from that Achilles.
You hear it all the time. At 1 year post-op, you probably feel like you're about 75, 80%. 2 years, you're at 100%. So, and it just is what it is. Jets versus Vikings, the first game in London. Vikings favorite by 2.5.
It's hard to go against the Vikings at 2.5. So the Vikings winning cover. What they're doing is insane.
You can't pick against Ginger God Sam Darnold right now.
And Brian Flores is the most amazing defensive play caller in football.
It's not fair. They have 2 head coaches on that squad, and Kevin O'Connell is doing magical things. There are times I like to watch the Vikings games just because I'm just so interested in it. It's amazing how often Justin Jefferson is just wide open. And that's
how often everyone's just open.
And that's a scheme thing. Like he is just
and
creating things to get them open.
They don't even have Hawkinson yet.
Yep.
Whatever.
I am upset.
One day, I am not okay.
Coming up, Bears will be playing the Cardinals, so threw this one in there. Cardinals at 49ers. The 49ers are favored by 7.5.
Cardinals cover, 49ers win.
Not a bad one. Packers at Rams. Packers are favored by 3.
Packers win and cover.
I would agree. I mean, that Rams team is just not very good. Yes, the Bears
glass
didn't blow them
cannon
out or anything, but the Packers are just explosive as hell.
The glass cannon shattered.
All right. A coccyx and bull story. This is where we give our bold prediction for the game. Danny, what you got?
I believe that Tremaine Edmonds is going to have a week where we're talking about him getting into the defensive player of the week conversations. Because Andy Dalton does attack the middle of the field. Deontay Johnson does a lot of his work over the middle of the field. As much as I have my gripes with how Tremaine Edmonds plays to contact in the run game, he is a very good coverage linebacker, and he fulfills his duties as the Mike in this defense. And I think he's going to – so now some of his impact, just by virtue of the nature of the defense they play, isn't going to be felt like in the box score. But I think he's going to have a really good game. And he's probably – for my money right now, as much as I kind of hate the logic of how they landed on him, is having probably the best season of his career. He's been very good to start this season.
I would agree with that. I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to say that touchdown last week started something special, and DJ Moore gets 2 touchdowns this week. All right. Offensive player of the game. Who you got?
You know what? I'll say Rome.
All right. You're going to battle DJ with Rome. Okay.
Yeah, I'll battle your DJ with my Rome. And I just think it's because the connection's clearly been there so far.
Oh, 100%.
Even if Rome has some frustrating mental gaps on film where it's clear he's just still learning the NFL. But I believe Rome's going to be a really good receiver in this league, and I have maintained that since the draft process when I had him ranked as my wide receiver too. So, I just believe in him.
I am going to go with Cole Kmet. I think with some of the injuries that the Panthers are dealing with in their linebacker core, that he is a guy. He's always like 90% catch percentage right now, which I believe is like top 5 in the league in terms of catch percentage. He's the definition of a safety blanket. So I think he's a guy that just basically is there and helps get a lot of receptions, helps march down the field, important on third down. Even if he isn't necessarily in the end zone as consistently as I just said, DJ Moore is going to get 2 touchdowns, but that's going to be very important in this game, where at the end of the day, on these third downs that the Bears love to be in, that he'll be important for converting those. Defensive player of the game. Who do you got?
Well, I mean, if I pick Tremaine Edmonds to be the X factor, right, I probably should.
Defensively.
Yeah, so for all the reasons stated, Tremaine Edmonds.
I'm gonna go with Jalen Johnson. It's probably like a low hanging fruit kind of a pick, easy, but he's playing so good right now. You look at what he's doing. He just got paid, right? And you see a lot of times guys that get paid, all of a sudden they focus on only what's going to help them going forward. But he is sticking his nose in and like making some great run stop tackles. It's guys. A lot of times you don't see guys who get paid to do that. So. He's also getting his hands on more balls, no pun intended. That was always my biggest gripe with him. He just didn't get interceptions. He didn't get pass breakups, and he is this year. So, Jalen Johnson, do your thing.
Agreed.
Lastly, King of the North, aka MVP. We get to bring this back because the Bears weren't, coming off a really gross loss that made me.
They weren't doo-doo trash butter.
Yeah. Who is your King of the North, aka MVP? Are you going to use your one Caleb vote?
No, not today. I want to see him more, like, come alive. I don't know, honestly, this week. I know I went with Roshan last week, but I'll say the run game gets going again, and we'll go with DeAndre Swift, not for rushing yards, but for overall impact on the offense, where you're going to feel him in the passing game, a little bit in the running game, and where he kind of does his DeAndre Swift thing, where he's the multifaceted back they signed him to be.
You mean Khalil Herbert's not going to get more than like 2 carries?
And not even be the goal line back they designated him to be.
Just straight up lied about that, apparently. I think I have to go with DJ Moore because of my 2 touchdown prediction. That would just make sense. And I would expect one of those at least to be also a deep pass if he's going to get 2. I don't think it's going to be 2 goal line ones. So that should be a decent chunk of yards that come along with it. And I think you said, we see something open up a little bit here. Whether it's sustainable is another question as you get to potentially after the bye some more difficult teams. But I do think all of a sudden the Bears start feeling themselves a bit more on offense.
Agreed.
All right. That's what we have for the show. If you're going to go ahead and watch Thursday Night Football, go ahead and enjoy that one. I think the Buccaneers just run away with this one. I don't think it'll be close personally, but enjoy what you're seeing. Enjoy the little steps that are going on with this game. Don't get too frustrated with what's happening. I know I've got sucked into that after a week after that Colts game. Danny, anything before you get out of here?
No, enjoy the NFL season. We're now getting into the thick of it, where teams are going to start to kind of level out and just be what they actually are supposed to be now that we're kind of past the preseason stuff. And be safe out there with all the drinking and driving going on apparently. So, be good, people. Use Uber. It's your friend.
Uber, sponsor us. Bear down.